Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? The NFL league year begins next week, so free agents are able to hit free agency, your free agent market, and teams will be able to sign free agents. And you're also going to see, a continuation of the trade market really heating up. And one of the players that the New Orleans Saints, the most notable free agent that the Saints have right now is Terron Armstead. He has been your franchise left tackle since you drafted him in the third round out of Arkansas Pine Bluff, as athletic and talented as any tackle in the NFL. When healthy, of course, Armstead throughout his career has battled injuries. But in a year like this, where the left tackle market is very lean, it is not a very, by contrast, it is a very heavy tight end market this year in free agency. That's why you saw a lot of teams. You saw Miami, you saw Dallas franchise tag their tight ends. This year, as far as offensive tackles, the market is very lean. So Terron Armstead is by far at the top of that market, and some are estimating he'll command in the neighborhood of $20 to $22 million per year in the offer that he might get. ESPN.com today, for example, listed the top free agents and what they might command and sort of projections on what might happen. So just as a for instance, they're projecting the Bears to offer 3 years, $58 million, with $26 million guaranteed. The Bengals to offer 3 years, $55 million. The Dolphins to offer 4 years, $92 million, with $63 million guaranteed. They're basically saying this would be the blind side. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a blind side protector for Tua because he's a lefty, but the left tackle there in Miami. And then the Saints, because of their cap issues, offering 2 years, $40 million, and the Steelers offering 3 years, $64 million. They're projecting Terron Armstead to pick the Miami Dolphins. That's what ESPN is projecting, for Terron Armstead to sign a massive deal with the Miami Dolphins. And if he gets that type of money, I wouldn't blame him. So the Saints have to very realistically look at a likelihood that Terron Armstead is not a New Orleans Saint next year. And if that's the case, then you have to look at what your options are. We know that Ryan Ramczyk is one of the best. He is the best right tackle in football, and he's one of the best offensive linemen in football. Until this year, where he battled injuries, he had not missed a game. He rarely missed a play, and he consistently graded out as the best right tackle in football, which he was. The Saints taking him with a 32nd overall pick looked like a total steal with the way that Ryan Ramczyk's career has begun, and for it he has been rewarded with a hefty contract. You don't have a left tackle, and I just went through how this is a very lean left tackle market in free agency. So your options are you draft one, or you could play James Hurst over there. James Hurst has sort of been your swing lineman. He has been very good. That has been a very good pickup for New Orleans when they got him from Baltimore a couple of years ago, because we have seen him play everywhere on the offensive line but center at various times due to injuries. And he has been a very, very solid addition to this line. But if we're being honest, James Hurst is not a franchise left tackle. He's not the guy that you want protecting your quarterback's blind side against the best edge rushers in the NFL. What might be the best option for New Orleans is to move Ryan Ramczyk to left tackle. And that has to be a very realistic possibility. If they're not able to re-sign Terron Armstead, which it doesn't look like they will be, because of the money that's going to be out there in this market for Terron, if he leaves, the best option New Orleans may have is to move Ryan Ramczyk to left tackle, where he played in college at Wisconsin. He is certainly capable of flipping and playing on the left side, which means you have a hole at right tackle, which is far I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easier to fill right tackle than left tackle. I would feel much better about New Orleans if your two tackles are James Hurst and Ryan Ramczyk if they switch. Ryan Ramczyk at left tackle, James Hurst at right. I'd feel much more confident there. But I would feel even better if the Saints addressed right tackle, and they may have an option to do that with Lael Collins. Ian Rappaport, among others today, are reporting that the Dallas Cowboys are looking to trade Lael Collins. Now, you all know the backstory with Lael. He's from Baton Rouge, of course, played at Redemptorist, went to LSU, was a really good dude on campus during his time here in Baton Rouge. Decided to come back, if you remember, for his senior year in 2014 when he could have been a 3-and-done. But Collins decided to return for his senior year, was going to be a first-round draft pick. It wasn't even a question. It was just a matter of where in the first round he was going to go, and many thought he wouldn't make it past the Giants, who, if I'm not mistaken, that year picked Eric Flowers. But we all remember the story around draft day. A former girlfriend of Lael Collins tragically had been killed. Police wanted to speak to Lael Collins about that. Not necessarily accusing him of anything, but became a person of interest just to have the conversation. That leaked, and because of all of the goings-on in the NFL, there is the protect the shield mantra. And it was essentially told to teams, do not draft Lael Collins. I spoke to someone who was at that draft, and the word on the floor around the draft was, hey, Lael Collins, protect the shield, which meant nobody picked Lael Collins. And they didn't, because that case was unresolved, and we know what happened. Lael Collins went undrafted throughout 7 rounds. Nobody picked him. Of course, his name was cleared. He had nothing to do with that situation, but he was an undrafted free agent. And Jerry Jones flew him to Dallas and wined and dined him at his house, and ultimately Lael signed with the Cowboys. He immediately became a starter. He's been a bookend tackle for the Cowboys at right tackle during his time in the NFL, and he's been one of the best right tackles in the NFL. And when you look at Pro Football Focus grades, he regularly grades out in the top 10. Last year, of course, in 2020, Collins was injured, missed the season, but the last 2 full seasons he's played, he's been one of the highest graded right tackles according to Pro Football Focus. As far as his run blocking grades, he got a 77.6. By comparison, Ramczyk got an 82.7. So, I mean, Ramczyk's better, but Collins is still a very good right tackle. He's 29 years old, and Dallas is looking to unload him right now, according to Ian Rappaport. So when you look at the way that Lael Collins' contract is structured right now, the question for New Orleans is really twofold. It's number one, what would you have to get up to get him? What would you have to give up to get him? And then number two, could you afford him? So Lael Collins had a 5-year, $50 million contract with Dallas. In 2022, his base salary is $10 million. He carries a cap hit of $15.2 million and a dead cap number of $13.95 million. So that is still very heavy for Dallas, but his cap number next year, his dead cap number next year, drops to $8.7 million, whereas his roster number would be $15.25. So they would save north of $6 million next year if Lael Collins was not on the roster. Now, the caveat is also that number does drop if it's a post-June 1st release. If it's post-June 1st trade or release, his cap number drops to $5.25 million. So if Dallas waits until June 1, after June 1 to trade or release Lael Collins, his dead cap number drops to $5 million. So it would become a much more palatable, they'd save $10 million. Dallas, if they wait till June 1, would save $10 million against the cap from moving on from Lael Collins. So for Dallas, it makes a lot of sense to wait until post-June 1, if that's what they elect to do. For the Saints, they could very easily take on this contract and do what they always do and restructure the contract and basically sign him to a new deal, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, take a very minimum number this year in 2022 and spread the rest out over the life of the contract. It would be a very easy thing for New Orleans to do to make this work if they do a deal for Lael Collins. The question becomes, what would you have to give up? Remember, this is a year where New Orleans was able to get 3 compensatory picks because of Trey Hendrickson and losing players in free agency and in the front office to Atlanta with Terry Glenn. So the Saints were able to recoup several middle-round picks. It would stand to reason they could do a deal with Dallas, giving up a 3, a 4 for Lael Collins, a mid-round pick. Dallas would get relief off their books. The question is, if you did that deal, though, now it would be pre-June 1, and Dallas would still have a big cap number on the books for Lael Collins. The relief wouldn't come until next year. Are they looking to do a deal now? That's the big question from Dallas, which we don't know yet. The report from Rappaport was just that Dallas is looking to trade Lael Collins. I don't know what the Saints' interest level would be, but they have to have a very clear idea of where they stand with Terron Armstead. And the fact that they don't have a deal done with Armstead tells you Armstead's going to hit the open market. And if that's the case, the Saints are not going to be the highest bidder. And if he's looking for the biggest contract, which will probably be the last big contract of his career, he's going to take the biggest number he gets, and that's not going to be New Orleans. So if New Orleans is moving on from Armstead, or Armstead's moving on from New Orleans, it would make the most sense to flip Ramczyk to left tackle and find a right tackle, and there's nobody better than Lael Collins because I think it would be affordable. You could get him for a manageable asset, a mid-round pick, very likely, and you could make the contract work. And now you're talking about Ryan Ramczyk, Lael Collins as your bookend tackles, and you could keep James Hurst in that swing role, and that feels like a really good option. I'm not sure that the Saints have a better option than that, unless if you feel like at number 18 in the draft, you're going to be able to draft a franchise left tackle. And I don't necessarily believe that's the case. And the Saints have other needs, quarterback, receiver among them. So keep an eye on this. The Saints aren't necessarily a team that's popped at the top of the list, of those that seem to be interested in Lael Collins, but it's a call that they absolutely have to make because that could solve this issue instantly if and when Terron Armstead does leave in free agency next year. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.